I have some more thoughts about Israel-Hamas, Israel-Palestine that I want to share. I've been thinking more and more and listening and so forth. One thing that I think is that I do wish that Israel had held off on bombing Palestine and tried to garner international support, first and foremost for getting back its hostages, and secondly for eradicating Hamas. I don't know if either or both of those things could have been accomplished with international diplomatic help, but I think it was worth trying. And it doesn't seem as though that even crossed the mind of Netanyahu or of the Israeli government because of how quickly they started bombing Hamas, started bombing Palestine. So that's one thing that I think, and my fear is that the bad will that Israel is building or seems to be building now is actually making the world a more dangerous place for Jews and maybe for Israel as well. Rather than making it safer. So that's one thing. Another thing that I think is, a question that is worth asking, that it's not really being asked by many people, is what could in the future the Palestinian people do in Gaza specifically to rid themselves of Hamas? And what role and what responsibility do the Palestinian people have for their own situation? Because they do have some responsibility for it. They don't have all responsibility. They are, to some extent, maybe to a large extent, a brutalized and victimized populace, but it's not 100%. I was watching an interview that Piers Morgan was doing with Jordan Peterson. And Jordan Peterson made that point, and he's the only person I've heard make that point. He said, what responsibility does a population have, does a brutalized population have for its own brutalization? And he said, the answer is not zero. And I agree with that. There is some role that the Palestinians themselves could have played, and can play, and probably will have to play in the future to rid themselves of Hamas and or if Israel is successful at rooting Hamas out of Gaza and in making sure that they stay out. And I think that question has to be asked. And I don't know if it will be asked because we are in a phase of society in the world where people are in love with victimization. And being a victim gets a lot of cred. It earns a lot of sympathy and support. And people who themselves are not victims love to make victims of other people, meaning they're not necessarily terrorizing those people, but they support in those people an image or a self-image of being victimized, which is, in a sense, a kind of excuse me, a kind of terrorization, because you're taking power away from those people, or you're encouraging them to view themselves as powerless, which is terrible. So I don't know if that question will be asked, but I hope that it is.